Hello, and welcome to the Gamer's Closet. I'm your host, Douglas Weed, and today we're going to be talking about Casper the Friendly Ghost. Casper the Friendly Ghost is a game that was manufactured by Milton Bradley in 1959. It seats anywhere from 2 to 4 players, runs for about 20 minutes of game time, and is rated for ages 5 and up. But let's dig into it a little further, shall we? Casper the Friendly Ghost is the protagonist of the famous studio's theatrical animated cartoon series of the same name. He is a pleasant, personable, and translucent ghost, but is often criticized by his 3 wicked uncles, the Ghostly Trio. The character was featured in 55 theatrical cartoons titled The Friendly Ghost from 1945 to 1959. The character has been featured in comic books published by Harvey Comics since 1952, and Harvey purchased the character outright in 1959. In the same year, the Casper the Friendly Ghost board game was created by Milton Bradley. The box shows on the bottom right corner that the Harvey Cartoon Studio is still the copyright holder of the game, so it was made after the initial copyright purchase. The object of this game is to be the first player to move 4 ghosts around the spooky path and into the haunted house. This game was released in the United States as well as France. This game does come with multiple pieces. Depending on the edition you have, it either comes with 4 wood discs in green, yellow, blue, and red, or 4 pawns in green, yellow, blue, and red, and 1 spinner. To set up this game, each player selects their 4 pawns of one color and places them in the ghostly circle to their right. Be sure to sit around the playing board so that way the circle to your right matches the color of your 4 pawns. All players spin the dial. Highest spin wins first play. Players play in turns clockwise around the board. The number spun is determined by the small figure in the second circle to which the arrow points, plus the large figure in the adjoining space in the inner circle. When these 2 figures are the same, they count as doubles. Each player first attempts to enter 1 or more of their pawns on the black star space to the left of the circle. This is done by spinning the dial, and when the total sum of both numbers equals 5, they may enter 1 pawn. If double 5s are spun, 2 pawns may enter. If 5 and some other number is spun, enter the 1 pawn for the 5 and move that pawn or any other in play as many spaces as the number indicates. It is advisable to enter all of the pawns as soon as possible. When a player has entered a pawn, they move it around the board from space to space until it reaches its matching colored star space directly in front of the player. For example, if your pawn is yellow, you started from the yellow circle and moved it around the board to the yellow star space in front of you. Then, from the matching colored star space, the pawn is moved up the path to the home space in the center of the board. In making the moves, the number in the 2 circles may be added together and 1 pawn moved the total number of spaces, or 2 pawns may be moved, one as many spaces as the number in 1 circle and the other as many as the second circle. If doubles are spun, it is used as that number 4 times. As when double 6 is spun, all 4 pawns may be moved 6 spaces each, any 2 pawns may be moved 12 spaces each, or any 1 pawn 24 spaces. When it is impossible for a player to move their pawn or pawns the full number of spaces to which they are entitled, then their turn is lost. If doubles are spun 3 times in a row, the player must bring that pawn that is closest to home back to their starting circle, and then their turn ends. When a player's pawn lands on one of the white spaces occupied by a pawn of another player, the latter is captured and sent back to their own starting circle to re-enter the game as in the beginning. The captor is credited with 20 extra moves which they must take in this turn by moving any one of their pawns the whole 20 spaces. A player is not obligated to capture an opponent's pawn, but it is usually for their interest to capture as often as possible in order to delay any of their opponents. The star spaces are safety points, and a pawn on one of these spaces cannot be captured. No player can move onto a safety space occupied by an opponent unless it is the entering place of the player which is so occupied. In this case, and only this case, the player may enter on that space and capture the opposing pawn. When a player has two of their pawns on the same space, they form a blockade which cannot be passed by any other pawn. Should one player form a blockade on another starting space, the player blocked cannot enter their space until the blockade is broken. If a player cannot move without passing their own block, they must break it. To enter the home space, a player must enter by an exact spin, counting home as one space. The first player to succeed in landing all four of their pawns in the home space wins the game.
Well, this has been an overview of Casper the Friendly Ghost. Casper the Friendly Ghost, first off, looks really nice. It has some nice art on it. It has a very nice Halloween theme to it, and it looks really good. Art on this game is great. Now, the game itself, when you play it, feels a lot like you're playing Sorry. If you haven't played Sorry, this might be a good introductory game for you. This could be a very interesting playthrough if you want something different. But honestly, I think Sorry is a little bit better of a game. But this is a very decent knockoff version, I would say. The game itself goes online anywhere from about 10 to 20 bucks. It's not relatively hard to find. There's a lot of copies out there. It doesn't revolve around a lot of pieces, so it's really easy to get a hold of. Like I said, the game itself is very easy to play, very easy to learn. It's very kid-friendly. If you want to start a game with your kids, this is a very good option for you. It doesn't have a lot of rules to it, and it does have a little bit of critical thinking, especially when you start using blocks and things like that. So there's a little bit of strategy to it. So I would classify this as a very introductory strategy game. So if you want to teach your kids how to play a board game, sit down and have a good time, this would be a game. If you want to pull this out for a family game night or bringing friends over for a game night, this is a very interesting option. I would strongly recommend actually sitting down and playing Sorry over this one. But if you want something different and something really retro that no one will expect, Casper the Friendly Ghost might be an option for you. Like I said, there's not a lot to this game, and it's very straightforward. The more players you have, the longer it'll take, and it gets a little more cutthroat when you get 3 and 4 people involved, because now you're jumping with multiple colored pieces. So, if you haven't played Casper the Friendly Ghost before, I would recommend picking up and taking a look at it. It is an interesting game, but like I said, it is pretty much like a Sorry knockoff. But if you haven't played Casper the Friendly Ghost, I would recommend playing this game. Well, that's it from us here at the Gamers Closet. We'd like to thank you for checking out our video on Casper the Friendly Ghost from Milton Bradley. If there's a game in the future you'd like us to review or go over, please put in the comments below. Please hit subscribe so that way you can be the first to check out our future content. And as always, please, have a great gaming day.